takové vrazby.
Good? Yeah, okay, great. Let's go. Well, thank you, hello everyone. Thanks to be with us today at WebSummit. I'm today with Chris Felton, my sparring partner, to talk about out-of-home and try to explain you effectively why not all attention is equal when you look at what is out-of-home advertising media. First, if the clicker wants to work. Sorry. Should I connect? No. It seems it's... Sorry, it was working just before. That's live performance. It's good. Oh, okay. So, I'm Alban from France, working on the marketing side. And let me introduce to Chris.
Yes, I'm Chris from JCDecaux in the UK.
So today we are talking about out-of-home advertising, but let's say a word just to start together to say, okay, JCDecaux, you may know, but who you are. It's difficult for us because how to cut a 60-year story into 60 seconds. That will be my challenge with you today. In 1964, our founder, Jean-Claude Decaux, French guy, invented the advertising bus shelter. Today, JCDecaux is the global industry leader on outdoor advertising with three main areas in business: street furniture, transport advertising, and billboard advertising. We design, we install, and we maintain a range of services for the benefits of cities, transport authorities, and commercial property companies. These services are free for citizens and travelers. For instance, bus shelter, self-service bicycle system, information panel, newsstands, or also, you may know, automatic public toilets. These services are financed by advertisements, and that's the beauty of this model. As they always, all these advertisements are always located in the busiest locations. JCDecaux is connecting brands with their audience with a maximum of visibility and impact, and the powerful innovation of digital out-of-home. That's why we are talking about useful and sustainable media. But let's get back to the topic for today. You may know that attention, this is our main topic today. Attention plays a key role because between the measurement of advertising contact and the effectiveness of campaign. That's why attention, I really get a problem with the clicker. I'm sorry, maybe it's me. Suspense. Yeah. Strange because I only get good vibration from Lisbon, for sure.
Maybe you're too far away.
I'm too far.
Maybe if you stand here.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will stand here. I don't like to stand. But, never mind. Okay, so, effectively, attentions matter. And why it matters, why attention is important? It is that digital has been using this metric for years to determine which advertising sites are looked at more than others. This recent study from Ubiquity in Lumen in UK shows attention and profit are closely linked. It reveals the impact of consumer attention on advertising effectiveness, showing a strong correlation between attentive second and incremental profit across media channels. The findings are very clear. However, we can tell you that not all attention is equal. Let's try to understand why. First, the definition of attention is plural. You may know that it's all about caution, but also about care. And you will understand why it's important for out-of-home advertising. Our world is saturated with hyper-targeting ads and increasingly invasive technologies, to such an extent that our attention is becoming a scarce and precious resource. Considering digital over-solicitation, it is urgent and important for us to take a step back on attention. The impact of advertising cannot be only reduced to capture the attention and the positive reception of content by an audience, without worrying about the ethical aspect of saturation in the same attention. That's the important point. We are most likely going through a crisis in terms of attention at this moment. Did you notice, on that way, on that point, the predation vocabulary, the predation terminology we all use? We are talking more or less about a hunting vocabulary. We talk about target, we talk about capture. It says a lot of what is at stake for our medias. It is time to reconcile caution to care. To be caring, you have to be attentive to your audience. This principle of preserving attention is at the core of JCDecaux model, because our approach is anything but extractive. And that's why out-of-home attention is so different. Let's explore these indicators from a study carried out in France last summer. 93% of our respondents say that out-of-home is the advertising media that interrupts the least their experience. Thanks to this service-oriented model we talked before, our media is specific because it is built, it is measured, it is appreciated through the prism of mobility. For all other medias, we talk about the advertising break, not for out-of-home advertising, which is because this advertising break is an intrusion, an interruption by prompting something in the area of perception. Out-of-home is perceived as 2 times less interruptive than digital internet advertising, subject to a warning and very solicitation mode. So, another interesting illustration with this eye tracking heat maps you can see there. On the left, you will see a Facebook ad, You need to scroll all the time. On the right, you're in the right station where out-of-home is part of the vision. And I will talk later of this kind of vision. So we need to think about attention regarding the environment that conditions it. That's the first learning you need to add in mind regarding outdoor advertising. So why JCDecaux culture of attention is so specific? It is that it benefits both its advertising activity and its societal vocation. Because we don't want, you can see these 4 main pillars. We don't want to conceptualize for the sake of it. That's not the point. But it was necessary for us to design and explain why the relational and societal quality has always been part of JCDecaux's requirements and values. In addition to generating contents, whether it was informative, entertaining, inspiring, our business model at JCDecaux is virtuous and more relevant for millions of daily users through their journeys. Well, our mission is to make the city more beautiful, more pleasant to live in, and better adapted in terms of urban spaces. It is based on these 4 pillars: quality, truthfulness, proximity, and universality. And all the research and measurement results we're about to share with you are closely linked to these fundamentals of the media. They are all the more convincing because they are always preserved and perpetuate our attention by taking care of our public, taking care of our audiences, and all this in this urban area. So that's very important, and that's why today we come with Chris with two different studies. Well, the one for these studies are highly complementary about outdoor advertising, visual attention. From France, we have concentrated on our efforts on real-world surveys with passive measurements supported by cutting-edge technology. All this during last spring in this beautiful city of Strasbourg, as you know, home of the European Parliament. From UK with Chris, we have explored the way consumer behavior does affect attention in a very effective manner. So, regarding our method from the French study, very quickly, our objective was to analyze how people looked at out-of-home advertising when they are on the move, whether by walking or by driving. And of course, the objective was to measure the attention paid to street furniture and billboard ads. To this end, we commissioned Ipsos to recruit about 100 individuals who were instructed to move as naturally as possible over a 30-minute period through the city, without knowing what was expected from them from this study. They were all wearing cutting-edge Tobii technology eye-tracking glasses, and that was the most significant innovation of all. Well, in Strasbourg, we did a world first in terms of measurement for out-of-home. These glasses, eye-tracking glasses, are a kind of marvel of technology. Each pair of glasses is worth the price of a small car, just for you to know. So it's the most advanced technology. You got micro cameras that observe the eye and others that follow what is being looked at. The beauty of this is to evaluate what we call the foveal vision. Do you know what is foveal vision? If you look at your thumb like that, you will see the central part that does not that does not exceed 3 centimeters. This is the foveal vision. All the peripheral part is not really seen. With this highly advanced technology, we were able to measure each gaze with great precision in terms of focus and duration, because that was the subject. So we go through massive data collection, and can you believe that you just have here an extract from the 100 or so 30 minutes video that what you used to collect and to analyze unprecedented amount of data for out-of-home. So let's talk about the main learning of this part. We could talk about it for minutes or hours, but let's pick up the main point. First, the first concept is that of natural attention. So it's quite new in the advertising environment. What does this mean? It means 100% of individuals have looked at JCDecaux medium at least once during this 30-minute journey. So it's huge, a massive figure. And the media whose consumption is on the move is really a strength today for advertising. All the more so when it is well integrated in, let's say, everyday life for everyone, and it does not interrupt anything. That's what we call it natural attention media. Second point, this figure shows that frequency, which is the strength for this medium, his power for the brand. And here is an insight. Over a 30-minute journey, people looked at an advertising frame an average of 29 times. That's huge level. That we are therefore a medium that is looked at. That's the main point. Considering that the average daily mobility time in Strasbourg was 2.5 hours, the number of gazes can be extended to almost 150 per day and multiplied by as many days for your campaign. So that's quite impressive and interesting to be considered. And why out of home is the medium of attention? How much people spend looking at the ad is the key indicators for measuring attention. This study enabled us to observe an average duration of 3.5 seconds per advertising frame. It even exceeds 5 seconds for almost a fourth of the contacts. So it's huge, high level of duration. And if you want to get something more precise, the average duration is 4.1 seconds by walking and 2.7 by driving. So it gives you average level of duration, and this will be interesting considering what Chris will share with us just after. Regarding digital out of home, this is interesting because what happened? We saw the average attention duration moving up to 4.5 seconds for every kind of mobility, walking, waiting, driving. This is the average. And this led us to consider maybe shorter formats for your creative from 5 to 6 seconds in order to have the best possible impact. But we will say about later in this presentation. Let's focus on advertising impact. And effectively, it's a kind of instantaneous memorization we have observed in this study. As you can see, in only 30 minutes, that was the pilot, the experimentation, almost 1 in 2 campaign is viewed and recognized and deliver a good advertising impact. That's the effective power of out of home. And we should not say any better that Alexandre Guérin, which is the Chief Executive Officer of Ipsos in France. And what he's saying to us, he say, I'm just reading what he said, JCDecaux is the outdoor medium that transforms an opportunity to see into meaningful and valuable attention. That's the point you need to remember considering our medium. It underlines the media's power to transform a contact into memorization, awareness, brand recall, perception, and also feelings. All the while preserving the principle of relational quality, which is the care, which is so important with our media. Well, regarding our media, you know, each pieces of furniture, of street furniture, has its own function, its own utility, its own relevance. Through their presence on this furniture, regarding the poster of the digital content, the brands benefit from the associated JCDecaux service. And maybe one last thing before handing over to Chris. This point, the longer the attention span, the greater the advertising impact. The attention span in terms of duration has an immediate effect on recall and attribution. Here we are comparing long attention duration, I mean individual whose attention duration for the campaign is in the top 50, and compared to those with short attention duration. And you can see the real effective impact in terms of brand awareness on one side and brand recall on the other side. in addition to this first finding, Chris, can you help us to better position out of home with digital media? Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, what I'm going to do now is take you through, it's gone a bit quick, the UK study. So what we wanted to do in the UK was take the work that Alban and his team did and put it into a kind of a bigger sample, basically. And what we wanted to understand was how a consumer behave affects how you consume out-of-home advertising. And generally speaking, there'll be 3 different types of behaviour when you consume out-of-home. You'll either be driving in a car, you'll be walking, or you'll be stood still. Now, what we wanted to do was really understand what the differences between those were. But the important question is, why do we want to understand that? Well, this slide here shows the average attention for lots of digital formats, okay? And you can see here, out of home there is at 1.6. And there was 1.6 seconds of attention for all of out of home, no matter whether it was a big site that you were walking past or a small site that you were driving past. And that didn't really seem to make sense. Those things should be different. So what we wanted to do was try and provide a piece of work that positions out of home slightly differently. So how do we do that? So first of all, we needed to find a credible partner. So we decided to work with Lumen, very credible in the attention space, and work with lots of brands and agencies that you see here. So first of all, work with a credible partner. Second is the methodology. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to create 3 different groups. A group of people were exposed to somebody walking, somebody driving, and somebody waiting. We then showed them some advertising with these experiences, and the Lumen technology tracked where the eyes were looking on a computer. So you're watching the video, and then your eyes are being, where your eyes are looking is being tracked with the camera. We then asked some questions about recall, and we correlate what you looked at with what you remember. Now, what I'm going to show you now is a couple of examples of the videos. Hopefully. So here we see, this is the London High Street. This is somebody driving in a car, driving past the bus shelter. As you can see, it's come there on the left-hand side. Obviously, the heat map you see there is where people are looking, and you can see that people are indeed looking at the advertising. This is the same high street in London by the Albert Hall, and this is showing how somebody walks past a digital advertising screen. So you can see very clearly there's a massive difference between those experiences as you see that video. And the last one is as you wait in a bus shelter. So you're waiting for the bus shelter on average in London, that's about 6 to 7 minutes, and you experience this great big digital screen right next to you. Now, in each one of those videos, the amount of time that you could see the advertising was equal. So it was a 5-minute video for each group of people. The first group of people had 30 seconds available to them, second had 30 seconds, and the third had 30 seconds. So there was an opportunity to see the advertising for exactly the same amount of time, but what we wanted to measure is how long did actually people look at the advertising for. So, that's what we did. So I'm going to just flip up this chart again. So this is the chart that I showed you a second ago, where we see digital out of home on its own at 1.6 seconds against all of those other media. When you now put in the different behaviours, you see that people waiting in a bus shelter delivers 4.4 seconds of attention, people walking past it is 3.2, and driving is at 1.1. So each one of those behaviours exhibits different attention for out of home and gives you a different opportunity to see the advertising. So I'm going to focus on the bus shelter. So bus shelters across the world, you're sitting inside your bus shelter, there's a 2 metre squared advert right next to you, and you can look at it for 4.4 seconds. That's a lot of time to get a brand message across. But why does that matter? Well, it matters because the longer you look at something, the more likely you are to remember it. So this is a Guinness ad in a bus shelter, and work from Lumen shows that the more time that you spend looking at something, the more likely you are to remember it. And that also goes for message recall. So not only are you more likely to remember the brand, you're more likely to remember the message. So have a break, have a Kit Kat. The more time you look at this message, the more likely you are to remember it. So attention delivers you brand awareness, and it also delivers message recall. So why does this matter to us? Well, JCDecaux, if you want a bus shelter, we're the people to come to. All over the world, whether that's Portugal, Spain, Hong Kong, or the UK, we can deliver bus shelters with high attention for a media campaign. And not only can we deliver the actual shelters and the advertising, but we also work with companies to deliver data and allow platforms to be able to select the best sites. So what I'm going to do now is show you a quick demo of a platform, our DSP and DMP with Displace, that shows how you would go about choosing the best bus shelters in London using TfL data. So we've worked with TfL, Transport for London, to obtain their tap-in data. So you can select the sites that have the most people waiting them at any time to ensure that you're choosing the best sites with the highest attention at the right time. So here's the platform. You can see here, this is all of the sites in London. And what we do here is we've selected on the right-hand side all of the bus shelters and all of the digital bus shelters. And that gives us a number here, 1,500 bus shelters in London. So next thing we want to do is we now want to choose the ones that are just the inside. So the ones where you have the highest dwell time. So we're going to do that by selecting the TfL dwell down the bottom here. And what that does is it reduces our number. So you now have 413 to make your selection from. You're whittling down the inventory to the best ones that meet your criteria. The next thing that we do is we then, well, we don't want 413, so we want to find the best ones. So this scale up here starts using the TfL data, and it finds the bus shelters that have had the most taps for the time period that we're looking at. So we do that next, and what that does is it gives us 21 advertising frames, 620,000 impressions that are available to buy. And what this system allows you to do is push that straight into a DSP and buy it. So you can choose your best sites for attention using the best data. So that's it on the attention. Now we want to have a quick showcase on attention for creators. I'm just going to hand back to Aman.
Thank you, Chris. Can you take from me, please?
Sure.
So, before Chris want to introduce the JCDecaux optics tool, very interesting tool you will see. I would just to add something preliminary, to share two interesting learning regarding specifically digital out of home. First, you show here, we are often asked the question, what is the most appropriate duration for digital out of home content? You can get a beginning of the response here from a study from Lumen in France. We observed that all duration for creatives deliver well, but the shorter ones, from 5 to 6 seconds, outperform in street environment. It's really in street environment. It's no longer valuable for transport and airport environments. On the next slide, sorry. You get the same finding, but regarding the very slow motion DOH creative, which more than doubles the effectiveness in terms of advertising impact compared to full motion. So that's key for you to try to better deliver impact with the digital out of home. But Chris, tell us a little more about this optics tool we use at JCDecaux.
So the JCDecaux optics tool is a tool that we have available for our customers to be able to understand how much attention their creative is delivering. And it gives you the opportunity to do an instant A/B test in the same way that you might do if you're working with Meta and you send out 2 ads to find out which get the most clicks. This is a tool to allow you to do exactly the same thing, but with attention very, very quickly. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples. Here is 2 versions of the same advert. The first thing that we do is we put this through the tool and it shows us where attention is driven. And you can see here, there's more attention on the logo when it's at the top than it is at the bottom. But we don't just like colours, we like to put numbers around things because it makes it easier to justify things. So at the bottom here, the logo delivers 9% attention. When you put it at the top, it delivers 30 percentage points more. So that's a quick example. What we also wanted to do is provide our customers and brands who might want to use out of home guidance as how to create the best poster. We've spoken that out of home is different So it's the only media where you have to grab attention from someone doing something else. Everything else, your content stops and your advert comes in the place of it. With out of home, you could be walking, you could be driving, so therefore your advert has got to grab attention from someone doing something else and bring them to the advert. So it is different, so you should create it differently. So we have created 9 guidelines which I'm going to talk you through. And these are guidelines from studies that we've done over the past. So first of all, demand attention. You don't have a lot of attention, but what you should do is keep to 3 sections. Anything more than that, and you're probably going to lose your audience. We found, and I've just shown you an example of this, that be brand bold. If you have your logo at the top, people are more likely to remember it. It's the first thing that they see, and if that's what you want people to take away, then that's where you should put it. Driving familiarity is using colours. If you've got a colour palette that people are used to, this is actually an ad for EE, but you can some people will be able to tell that just from the colour because it's synonymous with the brand. Deploying a fluent device. So we often see people build up a character or something through other advertising, but then put a product shot on posters. This is an example of the Andrex puppy. People like to look at puppies. They've built this character up over a long, long time, and people have an emotional attachment with it. What Out of Home can do is it can deliver that emotional reaction across the whole country at a reasonably cost-effective price. Showcase faces. Human beings generally like to look at other humans. So if you put a human being in your ads, people will look at it. But then what you need to make sure you do is you include your brand in the right place. This is a great example. Your eyes are drawn to the human being and the brand is directly underneath it. So the flow through comes through and you get messaging, you get attention on your brand. Your product is your king or queen. So what you need to do is make sure it's big, because if that's what you want people to take away, don't make it tiny. We found that it should be about 50% of the screen. So make sure it's there and people can see it. Short copy. We don't get that much attention. We're not reading a book, so don't put a book on there. Maximum of 10 words, yeah, because people don't read. People don't stand in front of a poster and read essays very often. They're there quite quickly, so make sure that you can read it in a short amount of time. Call to action. This is an example that we did with Specsavers. Their call to action was try contact lenses for free. We doubled the size of that call to action, and by doubling the size of the call to action, the amount of people that looked at it also doubled as well. So very key for them, because that's what they were trying to tell people. And also as well, sometimes you have to put terms and conditions on a poster. Sometimes you don't want people to read them, so it's okay if that's small, right? If you do want people to read that stuff at the bottom, then you need to make it big, because if it's too small, you'll lose the message. So they're the 9 guidelines, and I guess the point of this is these are guidelines. You shouldn't stick to all of them, because every brand is different. Every brand has a different message, and if you're Coca-Cola or a startup, you've probably got different ambitions and you've got different messages. So therefore, not all of these rules will apply. So the advice from us is apply the rules that you think best, then do some testing, and then find out how it is. And I'm going to show you a very, very quick example of a brand that has done that in reality. So this is a brand, Interflora. They are a brand who sell flowers in the UK. So they came to us. This was their previous creative, very, very product-led, bunch of flowers, and this is their logo here at the bottom, the black logo. And they were doing lots of pre-testing, and they worked with a company called System 1, who are a creative testing company, and these were the scores that they were getting. A star rating of around 2.7, 2.8 for all of their ads. They couldn't break that seal, so they needed to understand why. So that's when they came to us. And what they wanted to do is they had a hypothesis that the logo probably wasn't that clear in the black. So we wanted to test the two together. So we put this through our system, and very similar to the example that I showed you earlier, you can see here that the attention on the logo doubles when it's on the not on the black logo, so from 7 to 16%. Now, what this meant is that brand team could go to the rest of the business and make a recommendation that the logo should change, not based on an opinion, but based on numbers. So they could come with a number attached. And what that meant is then when they then ran the new ads through System 1, their star rating, they broke the 2.7, 2.8 barrier. So people were remembering who the brand was for. And then, what better testament? Put it out on the street. So they've done all the work, hard work, made sure their ad's going to work, and then they put it on these great sites all over London and delivering their message. And they continue to invest in out of home because it's working for them well. And the reason that it's working for them well is because people are remembering who they are and are buying flowers as a result of it. So that is the end of our presentation. So a couple of things that we'd like you to kind of take away. Firstly, hopefully what you've remembered or recalled is that out of home is different. It's a very, very different media. It's the media that's out on the streets, and therefore the attention is different to it as well. It pulls you in from what you are doing, and it does do that. The examples that we've shown to you prove that it kind of does that. The behaviour of the consumer, whether they're walking, driving or waiting, makes a big difference. It's possible to choose sites that deliver high waiting times. You get more attention if you do that, and data allows you to do that. Pay attention to your creative. We want people to take away the message that if you are creating, do some testing, come and speak to JCDecaux, look at our best practices and talk to us. So that's the end of the presentation. So if you, I don't think we've got time for questions, but if you have got questions, we'll be around straight afterwards. There's also LinkedIn, add us on LinkedIn, come and talk to. There's lots of people from JCDecaux in the room today. We'd love to have conversations about creating and improving artwork and intention in general. So from both of us, thanks very much for your time today.
Co, náro, nebo?